So thanks for coming in again. As some of you know about us already, there are others who we are interacting with for the very first time. We're basically a set of expert mentors, many of us in our mid-40s who've had an excellent academic background, corporate professional background, and even education sector backgrounds. So about 25, 30 of us. And we felt that we should try to reach out to as many children as we can who are curious and passionate and are seeking, right? So that's really why we exist. We do face-to-face programs. We were going to run summer programs, residential summer programs in April, May. Unfortunately, we can't do that because of the circumstances. So in the last 1 week, we just decided to figure out if there was a way in which we can do this engagement online. So we're trying something different. This is an effort towards that. So the very first course is called Discovering Bridge through HOOL. We have our course facilitator here with us today. I'll let him speak more about what the course is going to be all about. But let me introduce him very briefly. Amresh Deshpande, he's basically a bridge educator, helping develop bridge in India and around the world. He's basically a teacher at heart, and he's developed a bridge app called Kida. It's actually a precursor to Bridge. This app has been running in 40 different languages around the world. He's also designed a precursor to Bridge called HOOL, which is really what the course is all about. This has been featured on the World Bridge Federation as one of the more interesting tools to learn bridge. Maresh has also contributed to the American Contract Bridge League, which is the governing organization for contract bridge in North America. He's also actively involved in teaching bridge in Indian villages, especially the village of Raibedpura in tribal district Khargone, Madhya Pradesh, where he uses bridge to teach math in schools. In addition, he's teaching bridge at Bombay Scottish, Bombay International School, and a few other schools in India. With that, I'll just hand over to Amresh. Amresh, feel free to add more about what you do and go ahead and start your conversation on the course.
Yeah. Hello, parents.
Hi, Amresh.
Yeah. So some of you may or may not, you may have parents or uncles or even grandparents, I don't know, who play bridge. But there has been a bit of a gap. So bridge has been sort of lost out for, they say, a generation and a half. But now it's making a comeback, especially in North America and Europe, and increasingly so in India. So bridge, some of the interesting aspects about bridge, that it's an intellectual game that you can play all your life. In fact, I was introduced to it by a British lady in Kodaikanal, and she was 92 years old. So it just shows how, you know, how long one can play bridge. And she actually played bridge right, you know, nearing 100. She passed away a little after 100. Chess is the intellectual equal of bridge, but with a difference. Chess is a game of complete information, which means that you see all the pawns or all the pieces in front of you. But bridge is not like that. Bridge is a game of incomplete information. So there are things you know and there are things you don't know. You see half the cards and you don't see half the cards. So in that sense, problem solving in bridge actually prepares students, I think, to sort of real life situations. I can think of an example, for example, buying oranges. If you go to a store and you buy, say, 10 oranges, and each orange is 5 rupees. So you're paying 50 rupees for 10 oranges and you come home. So that's math. Now you're home and you discover that there are only 9 oranges. So what happened? So now there is conjecture. You imagine that maybe, you know, you calculated wrong, or that she put in the wrong number of oranges, or somebody ate one on the way, or one just got lost somewhere. So this is what bridge is, that you adapt to it. Now, if you have a recipe for 10 oranges, supposing you're going to make something, then you adapt for 9 oranges. And that is what bridge teaches us, that we play with probabilistic calculations on the table, that your opponents hold these kind of cards and that opponent holds these kinds of cards. But actually what they could hold might be slightly different. And you have to adapt to it. So in a sense, it sort of mirrors real life situations where you plan on certain events, but certain things just happen on their own, call it luck or whatever. The other thing is, I think artificial intelligence, I think, is quite disruptive, or can be disruptive, I think, in future, in terms of getting jobs, because we don't know what jobs will be lost and what new jobs will be created. So when that happens, colleges which are now offering degrees, they will have to reinvent themselves. And the schools which are feeding these colleges will also have to reinvent what syllabus they are going to offer. So I think it's important to just have open-ended sort of subjects which teach sort of problem solving that give you the capacity to adapt. And I think that's what bridge can do. Certainly playing bridge will improve your grades. I mean, student grades. It's been proved. A US university study over 3 years, there is a study about it. But equally, the nice thing about bridge is that it is a social game. And today, with our wired, generation, I think we need social contact. So I think that's the nice thing, that this is a game that you can play both online and face to face, and it works equally well. So you can go to any country, for example, and go into a bridge club, and then you have friends. And who knows, what business contacts also will happen. Like I was in this bridge championships in San Francisco in December 2019, and Bill Gates was taking part. And playing with him and his partner were 2 young Chinese boys. So it's just possible that you can, okay, that's just rare that you'd meet somebody like this. But it's quite likely that you might meet so many other kind of people who are also, important people in their fields. So that's in a nutshell what bridge is. We have Ajay with us. Ajay is a parent of Omkar, and he was there for my bridge, for the GenWise bridge course that we offered last May. Just thought that Ajay can give his feedback about what he thought about how his son took to it. And Ajay, would you like to say something?
Yeah, sure, Amrish. Omkar attended this GenWise summer camp in summer of 2019, and we really didn't know what to expect. And he liked the whole thing, but the highlight of his experience was this HOOL game that he learned. And he got really hooked onto it. And now, since he brought back a kind of a board, a physical game, which he taught to his younger brother and to me and to my wife, and all 4 of us played sometimes. But now lately there's an app also available. So now the universe of players he can play with has expanded, and he's trying to sign up people so that he can get people to play with. But it's like most card games, of course. There is a fun element to it. It's really fun. There is a randomness and luck element to it. But I think more than that, it's not just luck. Many card games just basically depend on getting good cards. But here you have to make the most of what you get. So it's like preparing you for life in a way, that whatever cards you are dealt with, you kind of have to make the best of it. And you play as a pair of players, so you kind of have to reveal information to the other player, to your partner, and he gives you enough information so that you can make an informed bid. Kind of gives you an intuitive understanding of the probability of what cards your opponents might have, and so on. So I found that his strategic thinking in that respect has improved because of his practice playing this game. He has when he's playing this, he's like he shuts out everything else. So that is like I've never seen him focus on anything else like this. So I think that is a positive. And of course, it's a much better pastime than, let's say, playing a shooting game or something like that, which personally I think this is a much better way to spend your free time. So that's my experience. I mean, let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ajay. So I'll just say one thing, taking over from what Ajay said. Mahatma Gandhi used to play a form of bridge called auction bridge, and he's made a statement that the cards you're dealt with, they are like, that's your karma, but the way you play them, that's your dharma. So anyway, yeah, we can take some questions now. Hello.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple more points, Amresh, before we take questions.
Okay.
Rajesh again. So bridge is actually quite underrepresented in India, as Amresh mentioned. However, since there are so few players in India, not just in India but around the world, there is a very interesting opportunity for young children to start, picking up HOOL and through HOOL bridge. And if they start to play competitively at the junior levels, there is a lot of opportunity from the Indian government in terms of representing the country, when you're in a certain age group, for juniors, sub-juniors, and so on and so forth. And these age ranges are substantially larger than those for other regular sport. So for example, if you're 29 years old, you're still a youth bridge player. And that's thanks to all the 92-year-olds that have been teaching Amresh, for example. Right? So there are very interesting opportunities available. I mean, you must have heard of so many children who compete at the state level and the national level in so many different sports. Bridge is a proper sport according to the government of India. And I just wanted to share that there are tremendous opportunities if children take to it. Thanks, Amresh. Back to you.
Okay. So any questions from the parents?
Yeah, Amresh.
Yeah.
So this is like similar to learning. So after learning this HOOL or bridge,
Yeah.
so what kind of exposure that we can give to kids? So unless they play regularly, right? As Ajay had mentioned that I think that there are some apps, but apart from that, are there any clubs in Bangalore, or how do we expose the kids after learning?
Yeah, there are clubs in that often couple of times a year. The Bridge Federation of India has camps that they've had. Yeah, every summer for sure they have a camp in Nasik. They've been having for the last couple of years. Outside of that, there may be some regional camps that happen. So Bangalore is actually one of the big centers of bridge in India. All the metros are. So if you're from Bangalore, it's fine. I mean, after this, we can introduce you to local bridge players, and that will hand the baton over to them, as it were, and then they can take it forward. So there can be continuity like that. There are also camps held in the US and Europe, a lot of them. So that's also one option where it's quite well entrenched to have summer camps. And plus there are so they can play with kids all over the world because of the app, the HOOL app and the Bridge app. They can play. They can introduce it to their friends in school. Your building mates, or so that way. Yeah.
Fair enough. And are there any prerequisites? I mean, are they expected to know any other card games or anything?
No, I start with zero knowledge of cards. Yeah.
Sure.
So I'll explain 4 suits and hierarchy of suits. I mean, hierarchy of cards, all of that. Yeah.
Sure.
So Amresh, Amresh, do you want to spend a minute on, the KIDA app? I mean, how you actually take the kids through the sessions?
Yeah. So what we'll do is, so there is a app. My first app is called KIDA. So I'll be starting with that. So it just shows, you guys are familiar with games like 29 and Ladis and Do Teen Paanch and all these kind of games?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so basically in those games you take hands, right, or haath. So there's a whole body of games in the world In England, there's a game called Whist. In Germany, it's Yas. In um, France, it's Belote. In America, it's Hearts and Spades. So all these games, and India, we have many games like Mendicote and these kind of games. So there you take heart or hands. So bridge also belongs to that family, and they belong to that family of trick-taking games, they are called. Just that instead of hands, we call them tricks. So Kida is a very simple trick-taking app. They're basically puzzles. So there are, and they're open-ended. It's like if you've solved any chess puzzles, like white, there are 3 pieces there and 3 pieces here, and then white, starts and mates in 2 or mates in 3, and so these are the kind of puzzles that are there in Kida. So once they understand the techniques, some of the techniques on bridge, then we move on to HOOL, basically, which is a full 4-person game of all 52 cards, and there's a lot to it. So that's how we'll develop, and it's a kind of a 2020 version of bridge. So I mean, once you learn HOOL quite well, then I think the jump to bridge would be quite seamless. It's not that far after that, if they stick to it for, say, let's say about around a year or something like that.
Do you advise parents to be around when the sessions are going on? So at least they have someone to play with or something like that.
Rajesh, what do you think? I mean, I'm okay with it. Rajesh,
yes, absolutely no problem.
Yeah. It's no problem, because actually bridge started as a family game. This is long before television came. I mean, American families at home, they would play bridge. Bridge was so popular in America that Time magazine cover used to have bridge players, and New York Times bestseller books used to be bridge books. Till television came and started rearranging their living room sofa sets. The whole furniture and their lives.
Amresh, this is Shankar. Good morning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you for covering. So I had written to Vishnu yesterday. I was speaking with Vishnu yesterday, and he was giving, and I have 2 children. Both of them are super excited. And he suggested that the first time the program is going to have it for the junior children, and then later on for with the senior. Is there any context to it? Because on one hand, you are hearing, we heard people saying that people can represent, the age is very flexible. People have until 29 are considered youth. That's something somebody had mentioned here.
Yeah.
The posture that GenWise is taking is we want to have 2 different cohorts of groups of children for going over the classes. Maybe it is because of social skills or children interacting with the right age group. Perhaps that could have been one consideration. Is there any other consideration in that planning? So that is part 1 of the question. Part 2 is I try to go to Play Store and go to HOOL.org and try to get Kida. Kida is not available. Is there any specific link where we have to go and download Kida? That is the second question.
Kida is available. If you just, for some reason, after Kida, if you put a space, then it shows up for some reason. It will show up under, then there'll be a list that shows up, and then where it says Logic Puzzles, it will show up in an iOS store and Android store, both.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and HOOL.org is a web, also, it's there, HOOL.org.
Excellent.
And right now, HOOL only has an iOS app, and there's a web version. So I'll be teaching over the web version, basically.
Understood. So if you can touch on, thank you for answering the second one. If you can touch on the first question, that would be great.
I actually didn't. Rajesh, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I think, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Shankar.
Hi.
Yeah,
So Shankar, your question is, why do we have narrow age ranges for these sessions if children and adults alike can learn from scratch? Is that your question?
Yes. I think you got the essence of it. Yes.
Yeah. So I think while everybody can learn from scratch, I think there are certain dynamics amongst children in a particular age range that are very different for children in, say, grades 3, 4, and 5, or 3, 4, 5, 6, compared to those in grades 7, 8, and 9. Our endeavor is to present these opportunities to children across all grades. This is just the first course, and if you have an older child, we're very happy to do another course maybe a week down the road. Amrish?
Yeah,
I play bridge myself reasonably seriously. Amrish has been teaching bridge for a couple of decades or more now. So we are very happy to, if there is interest, we are absolutely keen to cover anybody who's interested in learning.
Yeah, I think, for sure, all ages. Like I said, I was taught by a 92-year-old lady, and it's not uncommon in the US to find people in their 90s, driving to a bridge club and just playing, with a walking, So I think we can think about even offering it to adults, right? In the future. How Gen Y should morph, we don't know because of this online platform.
Thank you. I think you answered. I think there are other dynamics as well, that's setting it up.
Yeah.
And we are just interested. Okay. Looking forward to a kid joining our class. Okay. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hi, Amrish.
Go ahead.
So I joined little late. Just wanted to know, so kids will first go through KIDA, like they will go through that app. They will try to learn it from there. Then they'll go to HOOL. Like that's a second step. And the third is bridge. So what all they'll be able to cover in this 6th to 10th April, what you're doing. So what they'll be doing in that,
so
KIDA
they'll
part?
understand, so they'll understand some fundamentals. See, now learning a game like this is like learning Japanese or learning a classical art, like music or dance. In a 1 week, you can imagine how much classical singing can you learn.
Of course,
so they'll get a strong exposure to it. I hope they will fall in love with it and they'll become lifelong learners.
Okay.
And I can set them on a path that they will become, and I will keep in touch with them. It's not that I'm lost to them, right? So we can keep in touch. We can play online occasionally or whenever. They'll meet other people who are online. I'll introduce them to other people. I'll give them resources. There are books. There are software. So there's enough to last for several lifetimes.
Yeah, because this has to be like continuous. You cannot just do a 7 days.
No, absolutely. And that's the whole idea.
And this is also related to what Neil had asked, right? So is there a way to keep the interest going through playing in local tournaments or opportunity clubs, etc.? So Amrish is very well known in Indian bridge circles and even international bridge circles. So he should be in the best position to guide the children. Omkar, Ajay, Omkar's dad, who's just spoke, Omkar continues to play bridge HOOL with Amrish even today, a full year after.
Yeah. So we've been playing. At some point the app was not working, but now it's quite okay, and we've been. So over the internet. And which city are you from?
I'm in Mumbai.
Okay, yeah. There are plenty of opportunities in Mumbai. Plenty.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So fine.
I had a question, if I can ask. So what I know is that my kid is very, very passionate about maths. And I think problem solving and critical thinking is his passion. So I thought bridge could be similar to, I don't have the clarity, is bridge anywhere related to maths? And will a child who is 11, who's so used to screen times and games which are much more stimulating, will they take on to a game like this? And thirdly, as he's growing up, he'll not find many people playing bridge, or probably even his elders not playing, because now at our age we also find very few people playing. So is it not that it's like a dying sport or something? I just want to know all the perspective.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the last question. It is undergoing a resurgence in Europe and the US, precisely because it was dying for some time. So now people have woken up all over the world, especially in the Western countries. And there are lots of attempts to get a lot of people to play bridge in schools and universities. There are clubs opening in schools and there are clubs opening in universities, and many bridge people are taking lead in that. So I think in terms of going forward, I think he will have more and more people of his age playing, that. In terms of intellectual stimulation through an app, I think absolutely, because if he likes problem solving, then Bridge is all problem solving basically, and there is an app, so he gets his screen time too taken care of.
Okay.
So I think it's a kind of a 2-in-1 where he gets his intellectual stimulation as well as he gets his screen time requirement taken care of. That kind of whatever.
Thanks, Amresh. If I may just add to that, Meenakshi, this is Rajesh. So there are very, very solid research studies that have been conducted about children's performance on competitive assessment tests like SAT and so on. And children were taken through, say, a 6-month course of Bridge, right? And I can send you some of these links after the call. They showed a materially significant performance delta versus those kids that were not sent through this program, both in math and science and several other subjects, right? Now, specifically in math, I mean, if you have 52 cards and you have 13 cards with you and your partner has 13 cards, and then there is a certain process by which you share information to figure out what your partner's hands might look like and what opponent's hands might look like, right? You're making some assessments. I have a certain number of points, partner has a certain number of points. So you're trying to, and actually when you're starting to play the hand, there are elements of, what is the probability if if my pair has 9 cards of hearts and they have 4 cards between them, what's the probability that it'll split 2-2 versus 3-1? You have to do these sorts of things all the time, right? Then you have to infer based on discards and cards that the opponents are playing, saying who might have the remaining honor. So there's a lot of inference card counting. So if there are 13 cards in every suit, you'll have to figure out how many cards have already been played, how many cards are remaining. Therefore, so there's math everywhere in this sort of analysis and inferential reasoning.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a child who will be interested in maths would definitely be interested in a game like this.
Yeah, and I think it is very similar to chess as well, except for the example.
I just wanna push him into the direction of his passion. So I don't wanna make him play bridge because I want him to play bridge. So I was just wanting to make sure that you all know that anybody who's passionate about maths would be interested.
I believe so. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Amresh, we are coming on to, I don't know, what's the time?
9:35.
9:32. So any other question? Maybe we'll take one more question and then we're available through the day. So you can just feed in your questions to me. I'll share my mobile number here. You already have, many of you have my number, but you can feed your questions on WhatsApp or something and I can get Amresh to connect with you to answer your questions. Is there any last question?
One last question from my side.
Asif, is that you?
Yeah, this is Asif. Yeah. So
Hi.
Can you tell us like how the format will be? I understand like it's going to be online, but how exactly does it work? Especially when you're teaching a game over like online.
Yeah. So there is a combination of app and Zoom. So over Zoom, I'll be seeing students, interacting with them, and they're also on the app. So some things I'll be doing common, like I'll be showing them a screen, I'll be sharing the app screen, for example, and asking them questions. And other times I'll be seeing their faces and they are going to be in the app and they are going to do stuff. So that is as far as the puzzle content. And then when we start the actual game, it's face to face. I mean, it's live. There'll be partnerships. Again, there'll be Zoom open and there'll be the app open. And they're just going to play with each other. And I'll comment at the end. I'll suggest some few things that they could have done better, or we can discuss, certain strategies. And that's how it'll more or less work.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think what, Amresh, you failed to mention today is that we can take only 8 participants in our first session. We clearly have, I think we have about 17 on the people on the call today. So for the first session, we will take 8 and then we will hold one more right afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But for the first 8, we just request, because the course starts tomorrow or day after tomorrow, it'll be great if you're interested, you could please register online for the course. I mean, you've registered for the orientation recently, but you can register for the course as well, and also help make the program fee payment, please. I've just shared the details of the fee payments on the chat window. You could save that, or you could just ask me, and I'll send an email to all of you anyway after this call. So that would be really helpful for us. So thanks everybody for joining in. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to ping me or Amrish, and we'll try our level best to get our responses back to you. Thanks for joining again. Looking forward to interacting with many of your children. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Amrish.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.